Hi, I wanted to go through the some points for the reading paper for the IGCSE paper 2, the extended paper, and just give some tips on how to make sure that you are approaching each question correctly and how to understand that there are different needs for each question. It's very important to make sure that you spend the right amount of time in the exam. You need to spend 10 or 15 minutes at the start of the exam reading passage A through, reading the question 1 and annotating and highlighting the passage for your 3 bullet points or for the 3 sections of your piece that you need to write. And then you need to spend about 40 minutes answering question 1, no more than 40 or 45 minutes at the most. And then you need to reread passage A, the sections for question 2, where it's asking you to analyse and highlight for those, and answer question 2 and spend no more than about 20 minutes answering for question 2. Then you need to read passage B through, and you need to highlight that, reading question 3, section A, and highlighting the key pieces of information it's asking you to find, and then answering your 3A, and then go back and reread passage A, highlighting it or annotating it in a different colour to the annotations you've already got, so that you can answer 3B. You need to make sure you've got about 40 minutes or 30 minutes perhaps at the least to answer question 3. Out of the papers that I've marked so far, the vast majority of you have not given yourselves enough time to answer question 3, and as a result it's taking your grade way down. On the extended paper, it's really important to realise you can't score higher than an E grade, and if you don't answer question 3 at all, you will not get yourself an E grade, probably, unless you score very highly on questions 1 and 2. Now, top tip coming up to help you realise what kind of writing you need to do. You should not be writing the same sentence for any of your answers to questions 1, 2 and 3, because they are very different types of writing you've been asked to do. My top tip is the 3 A's. Remember what A you are doing for each question. Question 1 asked you to write a talk for newcomers to Camp Calumet as Tom Vincent, warning them about the dangers of Alaska and of sub-zero temperatures and travelling in them. And then question 2 asks you to reread the descriptions of the intense cold and the lighting of the fire, select words and phrases from these descriptions, explain how the writer has created effects by using this language. And then question 3 asks you to summarise A, the hardships of the living conditions in passage B, the George Orwell piece. Notice that comes first, the second piece, and then B, the dangers of walking in Alaska as described in passage A. And you must write in continuous writing. Now, you are supposed to be using your own words as much as you can. But for question 1, you are the first A. You are adapting. You are an adapter. You are changing the form of the piece of writing. Whatever it is in the exam, you've got to change it to a different form, and it's probably going to be for a different purpose and a different audience as well. So when you're planning your answer to question 1, you really need to think about who you are. If you're a person from the passage, as often seems to be the case, what kind of person are you? You need to show that you've understood what kind of person, what kind of character they are. You need to sound a bit like that person. And you also need to decide what the appropriate information is to emphasise from that passage, and also what else needs to be developed and added in order to be a really helpful text for the audience. Think about TV adaptations. I was watching Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock Holmes the other night. Now, that is a modern and updated version of Sherlock Holmes. So there's quite a lot of clever work that goes into adapting that. So in the original Sherlock Holmes would smoke a pipe, and he would say, oh, this is quite a 3-pipe problem. Which means it's going to take him 3 pipes worth of tobacco before he's solved this particular crime. Now, in the first episode of the first Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman Sherlock Holmes that I was watching, he's doesn't smoke pipes, and in fact he doesn't even smoke cigarettes, but he's got nicotine patches, and so he says this is quite a 3-patch problem. Now that is an example of an adaptation, and as someone who's read the original stories and knows about nicotine patches, for me that's perfect. And you think, I see exactly what he's doing there. And when the examiner reads your question 1, they should go, I see exactly what you're doing there. I can see where you've got that from, but you've changed it to suit the audience. There needs to be that moment, and that's what adaptations do. It's quite a skilled task, which is why probably most of you are finding it the hardest. So question 1 is A, adaptation. Question 2, analyse. Point, evidence, explain, look at the language. That's the only question that you're actually allowed to use quotations for, and where you're unpacking the language. Don't forget the onion method, but also don't get hung up on spending ages on unpacking lines. If you're not convinced, if you've made a couple of comments about a quotation and you think, well, I'm not sure if I've got a good mark there or not, I would recommend you move on and grab another quotation and start unpacking that, okay? Because quite a few of you are writing 4 or 5 sentences and you're not always picking up marks for them. So question 1, adapt. Question 2, analyse. Question 3, abbreviate. You have to write a short amount for question 3. Think of it like a can of sardines. I'm sure you'll love sardines. You rip the can open and they pack the fish into that tin, don't they? You have to prise it out. When you look at it should be a short piece of writing. It shouldn't be longer than a page. If your writing is quite big, it might creep over to a page and a third, but it shouldn't be more than a page and a third. You'll get penalised otherwise. And I should look at it and there should be 2 marks per sentence. You should be making points briefly and concisely. You are not expected to be flowery. You are not expected to be descriptive. You are not advising in question 3. You're not retreading comments you've already made for question 1 or even for question 2. You are writing a fresh, concise, brief summary of the text. You are abbreviating. When you abbreviate anything, it's really important that you keep the essentials in, and that's true of this as well. Hope that helps you. Question 1, adapt. Question 2, analyse. Question 3, abbreviate. The 3 A's. Remember that.